Dark smoke rose over the alien city. Towers once shining with crystal light now burned with black fire. The sky was filled with the sound of screaming engines and the roar of alien war beasts. The people of the planet Cheshire had known war before, but never like this. This enemy was different. They did not come to conquer. They came to consume. The swarm poured across the streets, endless waves of armored creatures with claws and sharp teeth. Each time the Tashari defenders fired their weapons, more beasts rushed forward, climbing over the dead to reach them. No wall was strong enough. No shield could hold forever. The defenders knew it was only a matter of time. Inside the grand hall of the council, the leaders gathered. Their faces showed fear, something rare for a proud people. Chancellor Villier's voice shook as he looked around the room. We cannot stop them. Our fleets are broken. Our weapons fail. If we do not find help, our world will fall within days. Silence followed. Everyone knew the truth, but no one wanted to speak it. The enemy had already destroyed 3 colonies. They spread faster than fire, and no known power had stopped them. Finally, one of the councillors spoke. We will send a call, not just to our allies, but to everyone, to every world, every empire. Someone must hear us. Someone must answer. The Chancellor nodded. Prepare the message. Send it on every frequency, every channel. We beg for help. Tell them we will give anything, resources, technology, even our loyalty. We only ask for survival. Across the galaxy, the signal traveled. It carried a simple plea. This is the world of Tusha. We are under attack. We cannot survive alone. Please help us. For days, they waited. They sent the message again and again as their cities fell one after another. The people watched the skies, hoping to see ships of rescue, but none came. The great empires of the galaxy heard the call. The Veiled Dominion, the proud Krath, the Council of Stars, they all listened, but they did not move. Why should they risk their fleets against an unstoppable swarm? Better to let Tesha burn than sacrifice their own. The Tashari Council received only silence. Some wept, some cursed, some sank into despair. Their children hid in caves. Their soldiers fought with empty eyes. They had asked the galaxy for mercy, and the galaxy had turned away. But then, something changed. One of the young technicians monitoring the long-range receivers gasped. A reply had come. Not from the empires, not from the great councils. The message was short, almost careless. It came from a small blue world on the edge of the known maps, a world most of the galaxy ignored. The technician read it aloud to the council. We received your call. We understand. You need help. Earth is coming. The council chamber fell silent. Confusion filled the air. Earth, that primitive planet. The humans. They were not counted among the great powers. Their fleets were small, their territory tiny. Some councillors laughed bitterly. Earth, what can they do? What can humans give us except empty promises? But Chancellor Villa did not laugh. His eyes narrowed. He had heard whispers about humans. Stories told in the shadows of trading posts. Tales of their strange courage, their endless wars, their refusal to die even when crushed. Most dismissed those stories as myths. Yet here, now, when all others stayed silent, it was the humans who answered. Do we have a choice? Velor said. At last, no empire will come. No council will risk themselves. If Earth offers even one ship, even one hand, we must accept. And so they sent their reply. To the people of Earth we accept your aid. Our world is yours to defend, if you are willing. The people of Tusha waited again, this time with fragile hope. Many still doubted. Some whispered that the humans would never arrive, or that they would arrive too late. Others believed it was a cruel trick, one last joke from a cruel universe. But in the dark sky above their broken world, a light appeared. A single ship entering orbit. It was smaller than the fleets of the empires, less polished, less graceful. Yet it carried itself with a strange weight, as if it knew something the others did not. The Tashari looked up in silence. Some sneered, some prayed. None understood. Was this their salvation, or simply another disappointment? The ship's signal echoed across the city. The words were calm, almost casual. This is Earth. Hold the line. Humanity has arrived. And, for the first time in many days, the people of Cheshire felt something new. Not safety, not peace, but something sharper, more dangerous. They felt hope. Asterisk the Cheshire gathered in the ruined city square as the human ship descended. It was not large like the shining fleets of the empires. Its armor was scratched, its surface dark, and its engines roared with a harsh, almost angry sound. The ship looked like a predator, old and scarred, but still alive and dangerous. Chancellor Vila stood with his council, his eyes never leaving the sky. Around him, soldiers and civilians whispered, "Is this all they sent?" One muttered, "Just one ship." Another sneered. "We are finished," an elder said, shaking his head. But then the ramp opened. Out of the darkness stepped figures that silenced every voice. Humans, they were tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with a weight that seemed to bend the ground. Their armor was not polished silver like the Krath Knights or glowing crystal like the Veil Dominion. It was heavy, scarred metal, built for war, not for beauty. Across their chests and helmets were marks of battles fought long ago, scratches, burns, even crude symbols painted by hand. The leader walked forward, helmet under his arm. His face was hard, his eyes calm, like a man who had seen too much death and learned not to fear it any more. "I am Captain Elias," he said, his voice low and steady. "We heard your call. We are here to fight." The Tashari Council stared. In silence, Chancellor Vila stepped forward. "You are only a handful. The swarm numbers in millions. Entire fleets failed against them. What can you do?" Elias met his gaze. "What we always do. We fight until the enemy breaks. And if the enemy does not break," he shrugged lightly, "then we do not stop." Some of the aliens laughed bitterly. "Madness, you cannot win." Elias turned his head, his eyes cold. "Winning is not the point. Survival is." Behind him, his soldiers began unloading crates. The Tashari saw strange weapons, bulky rifles that hummed with energy, grenades with blinking red lights, blades so sharp the air seemed to hiss around them. These were not elegant weapons like those of the empires. They were brutal, ugly, and terrifying. One Tashari general stepped forward, curious. "Why would your world risk soldiers for us? You are small, your fleet's weak. What do you gain?" A smile touched Ilias's lips, but it was not kind. "We don't fight for gain. We fight because someone has to. That's what it means to be human." The words carried across the square like a spark. The Tashari murmured among themselves. Some still doubted. Others began to wonder. Later that night, the first enemy wave came. The swarm poured from the forests, black shapes against the burning horizon. Their claws tore the ground, their screeches shook the air. The Tashari prepared to run, certain that the humans would finally show weakness. Instead, the humans advanced. Captain Elias raised his weapon. Line formation, hold. The soldiers moved with perfect control, like a single body. No one ran, no one trembled. When the swarm drew close enough, Elias gave one word: fire. The night exploded. Human weapons thundered like storms. Red beams tore through the first wave. Grenades burst, throwing fire into the swarm. But it was not just the weapons, it was the humans themselves. They did not retreat. They did not flinch when the enemy came closer. They moved forward, hand to hand, blade against claw. The humans fought with a savagery the Tashari had never seen. One soldier was knocked down, but instead of retreating, he dragged himself up, blood running down his arm, and stabbed his attacker in the throat. Another stood over a wounded comrade, screaming a battle cry as he cut through 3 beasts with his knife. The aliens watching from the walls could not believe their eyes. The humans were fewer, weaker, smaller in number, yet somehow they did not break. The battle lasted until dawn. The swarm pulled back, leaving the field covered in burning corpses. The Tashari defenders stared at the humans, their mouths open in shock. Captain Elias wiped blood from his blade, calm as ever. He looked up at the counselors watching from the walls. "This is nothing," he said. "This is only the beginning." The Tashari had expected machines. They had expected fleets. Instead, Earth had sent something else, something far more dangerous. It had sent warriors who refused to die, and for the first time, the swarm hesitated. The sun rose weak and red over the broken horizon. Smoke curled above the fields where the swarm had been pushed back. The ground was black with ash, and the smell of burned flesh filled the air. For the first time in weeks, the city still stood. The Tashari stared at the walls, at the ground beyond, and at the strange warriors who had saved them. The humans were not celebrating. They were not resting. They were preparing. Captain Elias walked among his soldiers, his boots crunching over broken stone. Each soldier moved with purpose. Some checked their weapons. Others patched armor with quick, rough tools. A few simply sat, sharpening blades with slow, careful strokes. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp. The Tashari generals approached, their long robes dragging on the ground. "You fought well," one admitted grudgingly. "But the swarm will come again, stronger. We cannot hold another day. We should flee." Elias turned his head. "Run, where? The swarm does not stop. They do not chase land, or power, or wealth. They devour. If you run, they will follow." The alien general looked away, his courage shrinking. Elias continued, his voice steady. "The only way is forward. We fight. We make them bleed until they learn fear." The Tashari were stunned. Fear. The swarm had no fear. They had never retreated before. But last night, they had pulled back. Could it be true? By midday, the swarm returned. This time, it was larger. Hundreds of beasts poured from the forest, their black carapaces glistening in the light. Behind them came heavier shaped, giant armored monsters with tusks like spears, their bodies covered in spikes. The ground shook as they charged. The Tashari panicked. Their soldiers on the walls shouted in terror. "It is too many. We will fall." But the humans did not waver. Elias raised his hand. Positions, his soldiers spread out, placing strange objects across the battlefields, more devices with blinking red lights. The Tashari whispered, confused. What were these? When the swarm drew near, Elias gave a single word. Now, the ground erupted. Explosions ripped through the front lines of the swarm. Fire swallowed dozens of beasts. The giants stumbled, their tusks shattered. The humans had laid traps, hidden mines. That turned the battlefield into a death zone. But the swarm did not stop. Wave after wave pushed forward. The humans moved like shadows. They fell back step by step, firing, cutting, striking. Not once did their line break. Even when one fell, another stepped forward. Even when the beasts came within claws' reach. The humans fought with knives, fists, and pure rage. One soldier was grabbed by a monster twice his size. The Tashari gasped, certain he was lost. But instead of screaming, the human pulled a grenade from his belt, shoved it into the beast's open mouth, and let the explosion tear both of them apart. Another soldier, cornered by 3 swarm beasts, drew nothing but a short blade. He moved with deadly precision, slicing throats and stabbing hearts until the ground ran red. The Tashari watched in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Their own soldiers would have fled long ago, but the humans, treated death as a weapon. Hours passed. By the time the sun dipped low, the swarm was broken again. Bodies covered the fields. Smoke drifted across the horizon. The survivors of the swarm pulled back, screeching in frustration. The Tashari council stood on the walls, staring down at the battlefield. They could not understand it. Humans had fewer numbers, weaker weapons compared to the great empires. And yet, they stood victorious. Captain Elias walked back into the city, his armor stained with blood and ash. He looked at Chancellor Vila and spoke simply. This was only their probe. They will send more, stronger. If you want to live, you will fight with us. Vila swallowed hard. Our people, they are not like you. We are not built for such. War. Elias's eyes narrowed. No one is built for war. We learned because we had to. You will too, or you will die. That night, the Tashari did not sleep. Some whispered in fear. Others, for the first time, began to train with weapons. But deep in the forests, the swarm was gathering. Their leaders hissed in fury. They had faced hundreds of armies, thousands of fleets. None had ever resisted like this. These strange creatures from Earth had cut their numbers and shattered their rhythm. One swarm commander growled, its voice like knives scraping stone. The humans, they fight like fire. If we do not crush them now, we may never win. And so, under the cover of darkness, the swarm began to prepare their greatest assault. In the city, humans rested with weapons beside them. They did not speak of victory. They did not speak of peace. They only waited, eyes open, ready for the next wave. And the Tashari realized a terrifying truth. The humans were not just here to fight. They were here to teach the galaxy what fear truly meant. Asterisk night fell heavy and cold over the ruined city. Fires still burned in the distance, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the streets. Yet the humans did not rest. They cleaned their weapons, repaired their armor, and studied maps by dim lights. The Tashari watched them, unsettled. They do not tire, one counselor whispered. It is as if they were born for this. But Chancellor Vila knew better. He looked at their scarred faces, at their steady hands. No, he murmured. They are tired, they are wounded, but they do not stop. Beyond the forests, the swarm gathered. Their rage filled the night. This time, they came not as hunters, but as an army. Massive beasts stomped through the trees, their skin armored like iron. Flying creatures circled above, wings cutting the moonlight. At the center marched the swarm's warlords, towering monsters with claws the size of swords and eyes glowing with hate. When dawn broke, the attack began. The ground shook as thousands poured forward. The sky darkened under the wings of flying beasts. The Tashari screamed in terror, certain no one could stop this storm. But the humans moved with calm. Precision got Captain Elias stood at the front, his voice steady. Positions, traps, ready. Do not waste your fire. The swarm roared closer. Just as the first line reached the ruins, Elias shouted, "Now!" Explosives hidden beneath rubble ignited, tearing the earth apart. Beasts were thrown into the air. Wings shattered, bodies crushed. Yet the swarm kept coming, endless, unstoppable. The humans fell back step by step, firing in controlled bursts. Their shots were not random. Each beam hit a weak spot, an eye, a joint, a soft underbelly. The swarm roared in fury, confused at how these small creatures struck with such deadly accuracy. One warlord leaped forward, smashing through stone. It swung its massive claw, striking a human soldier. The impact cracked armor and sent him flying into the wall. The Tashari gasped in horror. But the soldier rose again, limping, blood dripping from his face, and lifted his weapon to fire point blank into the warlord's throat. The monster fell, choking on its own blood. Another human soldier, surrounded by flying beasts, pulled a heavy weapon from his back. It spat streams of fire, cutting the sky apart. The aliens on the walls had never seen anything so fierce. The swarm rained from the air in burning pieces. Still, the battle raged. The Tashari were frozen in terror, but some began to fight beside the humans. Inspired, they lifted weapons, firing wildly at the swarm. Most shots missed, but the humans did not scold them. They only shouted, "Stand, hold the line." Hours passed. The sun rose higher, casting red light over a battlefield of smoke and death. Yet the swarm did not break. They pressed harder, pouring more bodies into the fight. Finally, the largest warlord appeared. It was taller than the city walls, its body covered in black spikes, its maw wide enough to swallow 3 men whole. The ground shook with every step. Even the humans paused, their weapons lowering for a moment. The Tashari council whispered in despair, "Nothing can kill that. We are finished." But Captain Elias stepped forward. His face was calm, his voice quiet. "No, watch." The humans spread out, moving like hunters. They struck not at the beast's chest, but at its legs. Explosives detonated beneath its feet, forcing it to stumble. Snipers fired into its glowing eyes. Soldiers with blades leaped onto its back, hacking at its neck, carving through its armored hide with furious determination. The warlord screamed, thrashing in rage. It crushed 2 humans in its claws, but the rest did not stop. They climbed higher, cutting deeper, until at last the monster toppled, crashing into the ruins with a sound like thunder. The battlefield fell silent. The swarm froze, their endless momentum broken for the first time. They stared at the fallen warlord, at the humans standing bloody and unbroken on its corpse. And in that moment, something impossible happened. The swarm hesitated. Their screeches turned uncertain, their claws faltered. For the first time in their history, they felt something they had never known. Fear. The humans stood covered in blood, breathing hard but unshaken. Elias lifted his blade high, stained red, and shouted so. All could hear. This is what it means to fight us. This is humanity. The Cheshire felt their hearts ignite. Soldiers who had once cowered now roared with courage. Civilians lifted broken weapons and joined the defense. The swarm, sensing this rising fire, began to retreat. Their warlords dragged them back into the forest, their roars empty, uncertain. When the battlefield was quiet, the Cheshire turned to the humans with awe. They had begged for saviors, for fleets, for machines. But Earth had sent something far greater. They had sent warriors who turned monsters into cowards. And in that silence, every alien knew the galaxy had changed forever. The battlefield was quiet at last. Smoke drifted across the ruined plains, and the smell of blood and fire hung heavy in the air. The swarm had retreated, leaving behind their dead in piles that stretched as far as the eye could see. For the first time in months, the world of Cheshire was not under attack. The Cheshire people gathered in silence. They stared at the human scarred, exhausted, yet still standing tall. These warriors had done what no empire dared attempt. They had forced the swarm to retreat. Chancellor Vila stepped forward, his robes torn, his face pale. He bowed deeply, something no Chari leader had ever done before. "We begged for help," he said, voice trembling. "The galaxy turned away, but you came. You stood when all others fled. Humanity has saved us." Captain Elias looked at him, his expression calm but unreadable. "We didn't come to save you," he said quietly. "We came to fight, because someone had to." Vila blinked in confusion. "But why? Why risk your lives for a world not your own?" Ilias's eyes hardened. He looked out over the smoking ruins, at his soldiers, cleaning their weapons, at the bodies of those who would never rise again. His voice was steady. "Because we know what happens when no one answers the call. We've lived it. We've buried our dead, rebuilt our homes, and stood against enemies stronger than us. We learned one truth. If humanity does not fight, no one will." The Cheshire listened, their hearts heavy. They had thought humans would be like the other empires, cold, selfish, calculating, but now they saw the truth. These warriors were forged not by wealth or power, but by pain, by survival, by the endless will to rise again. That night, the Cheshire held a ceremony. They lit fires across the city, flames that burned bright against the dark sky. They sang songs of survival, songs they thought they would never sing again. And beside them stood the humans, silent and watchful, weapons never far from hand. But even in victory, peace was fragile. Scouts reported that the swarm had not vanished. They had pulled back, regrouping in the outer forests. Their numbers were smaller now, their warlords dead, but they were not gone. They would return one day. When Vila heard this, fear returned to his eyes. "They will strike again. We cannot stop them." Elias's reply was quiet, almost cold. "Then you must learn. Humanity cannot stay here forever. We fight where we are needed, and then we move on. But we will leave you with something greater than weapons." Vila frowned. "Greater than weapons." Elias nodded. "We will leave you with the truth. The swarm can be beaten, they can bleed, they can fear. And once you know that, you will never bow to them again." The words struck like fire through the council hall. The Cheshire realized what had truly been given to them. Not just survival, not just soldiers, but a legacy. Humanity had not come to shield them forever. Humanity had come to show them what it meant to fight. In the days that followed, The Tishari trained beside the humans. They learned to stand in lines, to strike with precision, to use courage as a weapon. The humans shared little of their technology, but they shared their spirit, and that was enough. When at last the human ship prepared to leave, the entire city gathered. Children carried flowers. Soldiers saluted. Even the wounded came crawling to the square. Vilar stood before Elias one last time. The galaxy will hear. Of this, he promised. They will know what you have done. Elias shook his head. The galaxy doesn't need to hear. Let the swarm remember. Let them carry the story in their fear. Villa lowered his head. Then what should we call this day? What name should we give to the moment humanity saved us? Elias paused. His eyes looked far away, as if remembering wars fought long before. Then he answered, simple and final. Don't call it the day humans saved you. Call it the day you learned to fight. The humans boarded their ship. Engines roared. Fire lit the skies, and the vessel rose into the stars. The Tishari watched until it was gone, their hearts filled with something stronger than gratitude. They had begged for help. They had expected fleets, machines, miracles. Instead, Earth had sent its deadliest weapon. Not ships, not guns, not machines. Humanity itself, and across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. In taverns, in markets, in secret halls of power. The story was told. The swarm had been stopped, not by empires, not by councils, but by a handful of humans. For the first time, the galaxy did not laugh at Earth. It trembled.